Coming to you from the Black Swan Media Studios, this is Fireside Chats, talking to the real difference makers in the world. Now, here is your host, John Crump.
Good Friday, everyone. Yes, we are doing another Fireside Chats, and we're going to be doing one tomorrow, too. But tonight, I am joined by someone very famous in the gun world. He might not say so, but he is. Gun websites, Mr. GWebs from YouTube. He also have a new project we're going to be talking about. So, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for the show. Thanks for the invite and giving me some info on Skype. I haven't used this in a long time, so this was pretty cool. So anyway, thanks for the show. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no problem. Well, you are starting a new project. You've started a lot of projects in the past, but this one is really cool, I think, at least. It's called the Shooter's Almanac. Let's just jump right into it and just tell us a little bit about the Shooter's Almanac.
Sounds good. Thanks for the opportunity. So yeah, you're right. I like to play online, and I've been doing stuff online for a long time. Can't say since the internet started, but it's since the 90s, and I've enjoyed both the tech side of it, what our tools give us and the opportunities that we have. And at first it was just the mechanics and the potential. And then now 15 years later, it's been the community and the effort that we're able to accomplish. And I'm thinking specifically for me, I started on the internet a little bit earlier, but gun websites specifically in 2004. And we started taking it seriously pretty much then, started being part of the industry, and we had started to share our adventures and our experiences with firearms online before that. But in 2005, as we saw the internet developing and where it was going to go, we wanted to make sure guns had a presence there. We were able to buy domain names back in the days when I could buy something like GWebs.com, so it was hopefully easy to remember. And we started to become what would be called new media, I think. So we've had a lot of experiences over the years with the industry as far as the industry events like SHOT Show and NRA Show, SAR Show, some of the machine gun shoots and things. And those are had been fun in the past to bring to people. But keeping track of them and discovering new ones has always been a challenge. Is the audio coming through okay?
Yeah, you're clear.
I didn't even think to ask. Like I say, we've been doing stuff for a while, and then somewhere around 2009, 10, YouTube became a thing, and we really got into YouTube. It's a lot of fun, and again, the community that we started to see was so refreshing compared to the forums and some of the other types of community that existed before YouTube. Then around 2014, it started to get a little frustrating when we started to use that community for useful things like resisting the 23 proposed executive actions of Obama back in the beginning of 13. So the almanac comes from that experience, from that awareness, and then ultimately a frustration, mostly a frustration and apathy or in lack of awareness, right? People come and go from the gun community, just like anything else in life. And when they are interested in firearms and when they're able, circumstances in life and circumstances in politics and stuff all line up. And when we have a need and we have a lot of people, what we have been lacking, or one of the things I guess we've been lacking that I've noticed, is a fast access to our history, to the shoulders we stand on, to the individuals responsible for where we are today, as well as a map of what we have potentially in the future. And I see a lot of duplication of effort, and I see people getting frustrated because their efforts don't succeed. And I mean, we've talked off air a lot about, some of the frustration with just knowing how efficient we could be. So I've efforted over the years, like I said, I've done lots of projects, lots of attempts to create community and to get information out there, mostly online, because obviously I come from the internet. But this was an attempt to do something a little different, to bring the information that I've been accumulating over the years and compiling on websites, and to put it into a piece of paper so that it can be in people's hands. So I call it the Shooter's Almanac because of the Farmer's Almanac or some of the sports or road record almanacs that are out there. I think of an almanac as like a list of facts and statistics and important, useful data. So Shooter's Almanac, I'm thinking I call it the next step in two-way awareness. It's designed to experience, it's designed to be an experience in our Second Amendment that is useful all year long. So unlike a book or something you're going to read and then maybe reference, this is like a farmer's almanac where you might pick it up anytime throughout the year for reference. It'll have daily, weekly, and monthly inspiration and information for people. So it's not something you necessarily read cover to cover. You could, but it would be like reading a comic or something. It's not, or maybe not a comic, but the funny pages or something. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of, it's not like you read it cover to cover like a, what am I trying to say, like a narrative. It's a lot of statistics and stats and history and anniversaries and things like that. So as you open it up and thumb through it, it's that kind of book. It's not a coffee table book, I guess, in that respect. But it's a 68-page full-color pocket-sized reference. So it is designed to fit into like a cargo pocket or your back pocket. Again, why I created it is because over the years, it seems that one of the things we're lacking as a community is knowledge of our history, where we come from, the waves of attacks that we've had as far as the rights that are protected by the Second Amendment. So many industry events happen throughout the year that it's difficult to keep track. And I know as a content creator, it's, you'd like to know when these things are so you can plan for them and budget. And then finally, to motivate and educate people. I think that once people get an idea of the successes we've had, it doesn't seem so we don't have to be so pessimistic about our future. I think I want people to be optimistic. We've had, we live in a time now in 2019 where every single state has CCW. We have 16, 17 states with constitutional carry. Now we certainly have challenges and issues, but we live in a time when I think we can work together and be aware of the challenges that they face in some of the states that up until now have felt alone. And I don't think that's necessary. So again, this is an effort to bring not every single bit of two-way knowledge, but a heck of a lot of it as a concentrated into one place. I don't know if I should just keep blabbing. I probably got a half an hour's worth of talking about it. It's like I say, a long time in the coming, but if you had any questions or anything, or if we're watching the comments, if anybody's chatting out there.
Dead Horse, Ghost, Tacticals out there, Chris Shemakes out there on the YouTube, and there's people on the Facebook. And a lot of people want to know, are you going to release a digital copy ever?
That's a good question. So I wanted to put it in people's hands. That's my goal here as far as the almanac. The actual data, though, I probably could just take the PDF that I'm going to send to the printer and make it available as well. Because really the idea is to get the information out there. I just haven't thought about it. I do have the website, haven't even developed it yet. I've been working on the data collection for a long time, and then for this year I've devoted quite a bit of time on the layout and how to actually just put it all into a book and how big to make the book and that kind of thing. So I haven't actually thought too much about distribution. This wasn't really like a plan to make money as much as to get it into people's hands. Now originally I just wanted to get it done before 2020, right? It's kind of a calendar-ish type of thing, so you want to have it at the beginning of the year to be useful. But we have this 2A rally coming up, the Second Amendment rally on November 2nd. And while I've done a lot of projects in the past, and some of them have been printing, I've never worked with this printer before, and I've never printed a book before. I've done playing cards and other products, but not worked with this printer. But they tell me that they can have it printed in as little as a week. I don't have a giant order for them, and it's not the most complicated project they've ever seen, I'm sure. So I'm planning to, even if the project doesn't, it's a 23-day project, so it'll end on the 23rd of October. The crowdfunding campaign, at least, will end on the 23rd of October. However, I'm pretty confident I can find someone to loan me the actual dollars so we can make the order before the funds actually come in. So as long as it gets close to funding, by the time we need to make the order, we'll make the order before it even ends, and then we'll have the printed copies for that 2A rally coming up on the 2nd of November. And if I can get there, I'll hand them out. If I can't get there, we'll have them there for sure. So if somebody wants to maybe get something signed by somebody, so there's going to be a lot of people in the almanac that'll be at the rally. one of the goals of the almanac is not just to talk about the calendar and the events that have happened, but to help map out and explain who our 2A activists are, who are podcasters, and who are bloggers and radio show hosts, who the boots on the ground activists, some of the hardest working people out there, and the organizations that they founded. So some of that stuff is in there, and again, it might be an opportunity for somebody to get a signature or something, or if they want to do that. They were asking about the PDF. That's just not number one priority. I never actually really put too much thought into it, but yeah, we'll definitely approach a digital version at some point. There's nothing in the campaign for digital, though. I didn't bother to put that in as a perk or something on the crowdfunding.
Yeah, you can see the Indiegogo up on the screen. Also, it's in the description of the YouTube video. And if you're not watching this on the YouTube platform, I'm trying to push everyone to the YouTube platform. So go to John Crump 2 or just crumpy.com/show, and that'll take you to that, and you can just subscribe right there and watch it right there. I'm just trying to get everyone in one location instead of having 9 different locations. So, that's the way it is. How did you come up with the idea, though?
Again, frustration. I do a lot of live chatting, so everybody's got their medium. Some people are writers, bloggers, authors of books or something, maybe radio show hosts, or there's lots of video people. I'm on YouTube all the time, and then just people that like to photograph, various platforms and maybe for magazines and stuff. But one of the things that I've always been interested in, at least since about 2009, is the live conversation. It happens quickly. It allows us to hash out things in a whole different way, in a speed, maybe from AOL and from working in internet industry for a while. I was accustomed to a quicker communication. So when I went from AOL in the 1990s, and then I think I quit AOL in 2000, or right around there. We were talking about this off air. I was on really nice internet, and then I went out to my house with a dial-up, and the internet wasn't as fun. So yeah. I knew it was coming on the internet, even when I was on dial-up, because I tasted high-speed internet, and I helped facilitate the high-speed internet for other regions of the country. I just hadn't experienced it yet, so I knew there was a little time there. So as soon as the high-speed internet was a thing, and I had a cable modem, and the rest of the country I don't remember when that was, maybe 2006 or 7, when most of the country kind of went broadband. The video and the live chats became a thing. And, since the forum days, I'm a big fan of the live communication. Like I say, it just happens quickly. You can hash out so many. You can have a doctor and a plumber and somebody that watches the kids at home, and then, a truck driver. You just get so much experience in a room that any topic can just get thrashed out in such an interesting way, especially when you have people that are trying to be constructive. So, I'm a one interest person. I like firearms. I like exploring our Second Amendment. I've enjoyed it since I was a kid, and there's so much of it. And I personally think it's an important part of being a free individual, some of the, the liberty aspect of our country. And for those reasons, I think there's more reason to explore this, or at least a reason beyond a paycheck to explore this realm of our culture. And as I started to dig into it, now 10 years something later, I am not regretting the decision at all. Some of the best people on the planet are gun owners. They have good intent, they have interesting stories, they have respect, and they're aware. And it's just a pleasure to talk to them. I do some other things that I'm interested in, and the people are just not of the same character. So firearms are just overall an enjoyable thing. So to answer the question, where did the almanac come from? My experience with live conversations and touring the country and talking to people. What's ultimately frustrating is when we're not all on the same playing field. We're not all on the same level with just simple stuff like who's Ken Blanchard, like who's Massad Ayoob, who wrote The War on Guns, who's John Locke, right? So my ultimate goal, why I'd write this book, it's not to make a dime, it's not to get famous, my name's not in it. It is to inform people of who the players are so that we are a stronger, more effective, not audience, but communicators with the people that are being persuaded by the one-sided media out there. And I'm convinced that the way we fight one-sided media with one or a few large financiers behind it is grassroots through individuals. We've seen it happen with the 23 executive actions is the big one that we always get to point at. I've mentioned it multiple times, but we've seen it happen over and over. The M855 was a smaller yet similar grassroots effort. No single entity said, hey, let's stop the attack on basically green tip 556 ammo. And the community was able to say no because the community is so connected. So I know, again, from being in the live chats and in my particular medium, the live conversations out here, I know that there's an active, aware, capable audience. It's just that without the information being readily acceptable, and Wikipedia counts, but it's not pro-gun and it's bland and boring. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it's just like having a library. A library is only effective if you're, know where all the books are to look at or something. So my goal is to get the information in a digestible, like a consumable format that is small enough that people can keep it around. So let's say you're having a conversation and you wonder, what is the Second Amendment for the state of Texas? Well, it's on the edge of the pages. So you just flip to that page and you've got it. What date was Colt born on or something? Little insignificant pieces of data. But if we all have access to some of these things, like when is the Big Sandy machine gun shoot? Oh, it's in October every year. It's in March every year. Just that kind of stuff that we all get on a stronger playing field, I guess. So that's the ultimate goal, is just to empower our community to be better at explaining why we're so interested in guns and we're not just obsessed with whatever it is they try to marginalize us as being obsessed with.
Ghost Tactical wants to thank you for writing the book. Before I was finished, I wanted to say, how did you come up with the design? Maybe that would be a better thing. The layout and stuff.
We were talking like the other, and without referencing all these off-air discussions, I'm the cheap guy, so I just did it. I just went on, looked at some YouTube videos, started doing it. Maybe 2 years ago, a bunch of people from gun channels, a community we built a long time ago, showed up at Tulsa, and we had a big picture of a bunch of people who motivated to get to Tulsa, to the world's largest gun show that happens twice a year. And we had a really good time, just a bunch of people getting together with common interest. And everybody stood together and took a big picture. And at that point, I just decided I'd been asking for a cartoonist for a long time. Nobody was a cartoonist to step up. So I literally just took that big photo of everybody and stuck it into Adobe Illustrator, added a layer on top of it, locked the layer that they were on, and just started scribbling. And I don't know, a couple of months later, I think the scribbles looked enough like the people that it was worth efforting. So I started to do like John Browning and Kalashnikov, just to do it. And then I said, hey, wait a minute, what this is doing? This is creating a consistent image. And one of the projects I'd been working on for years is a history of 2A. And one of the problems you have when you try to do a history of 2A, or I had done a project on the firearm inventors, some of these inventors were literally around before there were cameras. So best we've got is maybe a drawing or a sketch or something. And then you go to now and like Wayne LaPierre's pictures, do we even want to know how much he paid for his pictures, his headshots? So those are giant, huge JPEGs designed for print and stuff. So I've got the range of like brilliant images from today and barely even scribblings from before. So what I ended up doing is using my cartooning, one, to practice cartooning, I guess, but also to create a consistent face for each of the people. I had mentioned, I guess, alluded to a couple of the playing card projects I've done. I really liked the, what do they call them, aircraft identification cards when I was a kid. The black silhouette, just kind of information about the different planes on these playing cards format. Flashcards that they gave to the military, like maybe the artillery or I don't know, whoever might need to be aware of what airplanes were in the sky during a confrontation. They made these aircraft identification cards back in the day, and I've always been a fan of those. I imagine people have seen these before. They're just black and white, the size of a pack of playing cards, but they'll have boats or planes or trucks or something on them. And I wanted to do a deck like that for AK-47s. There's so much variety in the silhouette of an AK-47, and of course, so many countries and time frames and calibers. There's a lot of AK-47s. So I ended up doing a crowdfunding project for that a long time ago, and I had some experience. I did that with the Bicycle Trading Card Company. I found another company in Texas where I could get cards printed for about a half of the price. So that allowed me to do 2 more projects with the playing card format. The reason I'm explaining that is I originally had drawn those cartoons and I had just done some playing card projects. So I thought, oh, perfect. I'll just make Second Amendment advocate trading cards, right? I'm already familiar with how to do that. Problem is nobody wants those. So then I had all these cartoons laying around, and I had them on the websites. But you can make a website all day long. It doesn't mean anybody's going to go look at the website, right? So basically, that's where the idea came from. I'm like, hey, I've got the cartoons. No one really cares about the trading cards, and nobody's looking at the website. So what if I made it in a format that people are familiar with? And as far as any other design, that's just what happened. Like I'm no designer. It's just the way it came out.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I have some of the cards. I think Clover Tack might have sent me some of those cards, but I think that's where I got them
Right.
from.
Some of the decks I've made in the past.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, that is really really cool. The whole learning how to cartoon thing is really fascinating because that's dedication right there.
Oh, it's just imagine when we were kids and we'd take like a magazine or something and put a piece of onion skin or that really thin paper on it and then just scribble on it with a marker or with a pencil. That's literally all I'm doing, except with a mouse. So I'm encouraging everyone to give that a try. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator, which costs $36 a month if you're a student, it'll cost you 50 something if you're not a student. But you can tell them you don't want to pay the $56 and you'll get it for the student rate. But at that point, it's $36 a month or something. If you don't want to pay for that, which I can understand, there's an equivalent software that I'm familiar with, Inkscape, and I would recommend downloading the free version of Inkscape if it'll run on your machine, and give it a try. It literally, I'm no artist. It just took me, I don't know, a while of efforting, and then they started coming out sort of what they look like. I would take a picture and just scribble on with like a black line, the outline, and then I would start to scribble in like if it was a coloring book. And I mean, it's really not magic. Just give it a try. After a while, you figure out, oh, well, if I don't make the eyes that big, then they don't look weird. It just kind of falls together. So I'd say practice a couple of times, and you'd be surprised how quick cartooning comes out. And I encourage everybody to do it because it's an efficient way to get stuff across. And once you can, especially with computers, once you cartoon somebody's face, like I did this from that big picture of all the people at gun channels, ask them. I stick their heads on everything all the time. I can just go grab a picture, cartoon the body out of something, stick one of their heads on it. I do it all the time now.
Yeah, one of the things I like by looking at some of the pictures is the 2A history timeline. That looks like that took a lot of work to put it together.
Exactly, and that's it's one of those things where do you stop, where do you start? So I don't think anybody could have sat down and just done that because it's literally taken me 3 to 5 years, I guess, depending on what you're looking at, what part of it, to accumulate it. So what I'll do is I use my websites as sort of notebooks. Like it's sort of like you're just seeing a bunch of spiral notebooks that I have. So most of my websites, since I don't have a huge infrastructure of support people here, most of the websites have first couple of pages are right and up to date. Back in the day, they were all perfect, but they've all had years of disrepair and stuff. So some of the sites that are more useful or are still full of data, you'll find that if you dig down into the sites a little bit, you start to get into less and less structure, and you'll eventually just get to our notes. And that's it's just what you have to do, I think, right? Nobody has all the time in the world to do everything. So if I'm in a live conversation and when we talk, maybe I'm watching one of your shows, maybe I'm doing some tasks around the house, I'm listening to one of your shows and you're interviewing, somebody who I'm not familiar with. I'll go over to one of my websites, create a page for them in WordPress, and then, let's say it's a person you're talking to is a lawyer who has written a book and they're a 2A activist. So I'll create the page in WordPress and I'll give it that attributes, those tags or those comment or those tags or whatever the website, however I structured it. But then whenever I'm finished listening to your interview, I've got their name, maybe when they started their company or when the organization they founded was created, maybe the membership, just some bullet points. And then when I hit enter or save, it's saved with those characteristics and it becomes part of my website. But then that's where I create the timeline. I'll maybe say, oh, okay, I learned today that Faster Saves Live was created, I think, in 2013. So I'll go to my timeline on whatever webpage, probably it's on Minuteman University, and I'll add that to the timeline. So when I created the Shooter's Almanac, it was basically a bunch of going to these websites that I've been monitoring over the years, or creating over the years, I guess, accumulating data over the years, and just copying and paste it into the almanac. And again, as far as formatting, like literally just copy and paste, make sure it fits in there. I don't know. This is my first time printing my cards. You've seen them. I'm not a visual or graphic designer, I guess. I'm not. I don't think I'm bad at it, but I'm not savvy. I've never gone to school for it. I'm not sure how much effort I should put into that. I don't have the money to pay for it, and if I did have the money, I'm pretty cheap. I just don't know if I would pay for that, something like that. How important do you think that is for obviously, first impression is important, and obviously being useful is important, but like, for example, that timeline page, there's not a lot of formatting there because it's just a bunch of words and stuff. Do you think that I should put more effort into that end of it?
No, I mean, I don't really see how you could, because there's a lot of information on there. And if you did like put a different type of formatting or something, it's going to be lots of different pages.
That's what I was thinking, because a regular book, will be, what do they call them, borders around the edges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Headers and things, headers and footers and sides and edges. I used all that. So, for example, on that, your body of your content in a normal book gives you maybe like a space around the edge, right? I used all that space. The space between the body of the page and the edges of the book on each page of the majority of it is this every 50 states. I do that every time. Every 50 states, Second Amendment. And then in the middle, what do you call, like the spine of the center of the book? On the left-hand side, it's every single page is a quote from someone. So if it was somebody's birthday, or if somebody started an organization that month, or something of significance happened that month, I tried to find a corresponding quote from that person to put in there. So that means there's 50 something quotes in the book, like in that section between where the content is and where the pages are all bound together. On the opposing side, there's a question and then the answer. So there's like a 50 something question quiz built into the book that you have to basically go through page by page, and you could ask somebody a question and you turn the page and you'll have the answer in the next question, and you turn the page, you get the answer in the next question. So there's stuff like that. I've got a couple other Easter eggs I'll put in there. And then I've still got some real estate down at the bottom of the left side of every as you open a book, right? The left page at the bottom, that's museums, gun shops, places to go, basically. Now, if you open that book and you look at the right page at the bottom, that section of the pages on every single page of the book is pretty much organizations, or like IDPA, Single Action Shooting Society, information like who created the organization, what year. To some extent, they're in order. So like if you start at the beginning of the book, it starts with the NRA. They've been around the longest. Yeah. And then gets to NSSF, and then Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, and so forth. At some point, I could go in chronologically, because honestly, there's a whole bunch of boring ones in the middle that I didn't need to mention. I wanted to mention the newer, more interesting organizations that are much newer. Again, to give some inspiration. I'm hoping that when somebody sees just how much is actually happening in the Second Amendment realm, that they don't think they're alone, and they don't think there's no reason for them to try. They don't think that their demographic or their area of interest is ignored, or if it is, then they can be justified and start that organization. If they're concerned that there's not something representing what they're interested in, maybe this will help confirm, or at least give them some something to, some urge to start an organization, because that's really our goal, is to grow our community. Right?
Yeah, right now I have your Indiegogo up so people can see what we're talking about.
Well, dang, it looks like you brought in $140. It was like 400 when we started the show. Thanks.
And also what I want to do is say I have a Patreon, patreon.com/John Crump. All the money goes back to doing 2A stuff. I think we talked about this before. Like one of the projects I'm doing is trying to raise $700 to buy a single mama gun and training. So the next six people who donate $1, who sign up for $1, I will buy you a copy.
Very cool. So in other words, people that put money towards the gun for the single mom,
Yeah.
we're going to help them out. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
for only $1, which is, it's cheaper, and I'll cover the rest.
Very cool. Thank you for that. And then maybe that'll help transition in another portion of the book. So one of my other things is I like the Second Amendment. I like the community that we have. I've mentioned that before. I grew up going to gun shows pretty much every weekend I could possibly beg to go to a gun show. I've just always enjoyed gun shows, and I go to gun shops whenever I can, and I travel quite a bit, so been to quite a few gun shops. Um, we have an industry where we have gun shops that are suffering, not just because of the whole FFL online, I'm just here to pick up my gun type of thing, but also because we got the whole internet, Amazon and all the other things. I mean, that hit all brick and mortar stores. Gun shops are different than a place selling shoes or a place selling watches or something like that, in that they're specially licensed because of the 1968 stupid federal law. We only can pick up guns across state lines at gun shops, and gun shops can only do business in their place of business, in their brick and mortar, and at gun shows. One of the reasons they want to get rid of gun shows is because that's the only two places by law, by their license, that they're allowed to do business. In other words, a gun shop can't show up at your local swap meet and do business as their gun shop unless there's enough guns there to qualify it as a gun shop or a gun show. So for those reasons, I've just been frustrated as heck. There's a gun. I visit gun shops and I enjoy the old gun shops where there's the guy's been there forever. He knows everything, where everything is in his store. There's stuff from floor to ceiling and every little nook and cranny, stuff 6 deep on the shelves. And usually 2 or 3 of the people that are working there know exactly where to find that crazy part you need or that whatever it is. When I see shops like that, or I see the brand new shops that are catering, I can think of Texas. In San Antonio, there was a shop going out of business that, like I described, been there forever, really cool shop. They're going out of business. No one wants to buy that shop. Like, how frustrating is that? Not just for me, just because I experienced it, but for people who live in San Antonio that have been going to that shop for their whole life, right? Then you get shops that are brand new, catering to new markets. I've been to shops that are all guns for girls, run by women. It's all a female shop, right? Like, those are neat, and I want to explore those, and I don't want to be in an environment. I want to be in a country that's the most wealthy country on the planet, almost, if we're not still the most wealthy planet, where our gun shops are floundering, right, financially and with attention. So anyway, so what I'm getting at is one of the things that I wanted to include in the book, or in the Shooter's Almanac, is a place for the gun shops to take some ownership. So on the back cover, there's a place that's sort of faded out, because sometimes you'll get something at a gun shop that's a handout or something. And the best things that you hand out at a gun shop, leave a little section so the gun shop can stick their stamp on there, to say, this, you got this at such and such gun shop, or maybe stick a business card on there and staple it. So that's what I wanted to make sure, that there was a place on the back cover that says brought to you by. And again, the goal originally was to create a Shooter's Almanac that could be just given away at gun shows. As you walked into the gun show, if you wanted to pick it up, grab it. Something that could be at the front of a gun shop, where they have the ads for the local hunting guides, or the 2A rally that's coming up in November 2nd in Washington, D.C. So just a thing you could pick up and be aware of or something. But again, I didn't want to make it that crude of material, so I upped it up a level. But I wanted to include a way for a gun shop to buy a stack of them. So the cover price of the thing, we didn't even talk about it. The cover price of the Shooter's Almanac is $7.62. You're a gun owner, you know why. That leaves it under $10. And if the gun shops buy a stack of them, a bunch of them basically, they're going to get them at $4. Now, it's not the best return in the world, but I had to pick numbers. I had never done a publishing thing before. So one of our stretch goals will be, we'll drop the price to the gun shops if possible. But I had to pick a price. So right now, if they buy, like, I forget, the 50 or 100, they'll get them at $4 a piece. And then that way, hopefully they can still make a couple of bucks selling them at the cover price of 762. So I wanted the gun shops to
is 762 on
started.
purpose?
Oh yeah, definitely on purpose. It was either going to be 762 or 556. I would have gone with 556, but I'm a capitalist and I want that extra $2. Actually, it gives us room to give the gun shop some money. But then 762 is better than 556. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to, before you go on, our Facebook room, it looks like they came on late after the YouTube room. I don't know why that happened, but so people are wondering who you are and what's going on. So let me just recap for a second for those people. This is Gun Websites on YouTube, GWebs as we like to call him. He is a Second Amendment historian, Second Amendment advocate, big time YouTuber, and also the creator of the Shooter's Almanac, which is kind of like a farmer's almanac, but for Second Amendment stuff.
Perfect. I love it. I never thought about Second Amendment historian. I'm not the only one for sure, but I'm definitely going to use that again. Thanks.
Yeah, but if you look at the stuff, yeah, you're definitely a Second Amendment historian.
Yeah, I never even thought about it, but it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's who he is. It's funny because like the Facebook, I mean not the Facebook, the Facebook people are like, did we miss something? I don't know. It must have been some type of bug or something.
Maybe that repost or that restreamer thing that you're using.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny.
I'll just try to sum it up. This is my second time. I had a show right before this, and I was on Gizzard Gary's show. He does a show out of Kansas on Friday nights called Foul Territory, and then he does a show on Sundays as well. So he gave me my first opportunity to go through it, and I'm exploring. This is my 31st project on Indiegogo. And I've done a couple other projects on the Kickstarter and stuff, but I've done these before. This is my first time publishing, but I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to share these with everybody. So this time I did a little differently, or I'm trying it a little differently. Typically, pretty much all the other projects I've done, I would think of them as more like a package where I tried to box it all up and have everything figured out ahead of time. And then it goes live today and it lasts for 20 days. There it is. I've done the work. I've made the machine and now it's doing its job. This time I'm looking at it more of the campaign itself is part of it, which is obvious, I guess, when you look at it in hindsight. But so in other words, I'm going to attempt to do as many of these shows as I can to let people know about it. But at the same time, I'm going to have an ulterior motive. I'm going to talk to you off air about crowdfunding and how the project works. I'm going to give anybody who's interested in the 2A realm, if they'd like to see behind the scenes of what it's like for somebody who's done 30 projects on Indiegogo, but not always successful, I'm not a millionaire or nothing, but they allow the creation of products that no one asked for, that the market did not say, we demand this, or it's obvious this needs to exist. Instead, we can take something like this, a bunch of 2A history that's really just a bunch of boring lists and a couple of cartoons, stick it into a 68-page book that can fit in your pocket, and sell it for $7.62. Again, I could probably take that to some rich people we know and say, I can make these for this amount of money. We can sell them for this. Let's make some money. But instead, I'd rather do this I do them in workshops every Tuesday, every Saturday, or it's less regular than it's been, but as often as possible. If I'm drawing a cartoon or if I'm doing research, if I'm maintaining websites, I'll go live and I'll invite everybody I know in the 2A media so that we can have conversations about the how-to, behind the scenes, the tech, on how we get our jobs accomplished so that we learn those skill sets and we figure out who knows what. So like when I needed an animation of a flag, you take a logo and you put it on it looks like a flag blowing in the breeze. You do that through computer software. I try it about a half an hour and try to figure it out, and it just wasn't happening for me. So I asked Ghost Tactical, who's out there, can you do that for me? And he'd already done it a couple of times. So yeah, he did it for me. So that's the kind of stuff that I try to let this be an opportunity for us to learn the community, the people that are active and willing to participate like that. So part of it is the open behind the scenes portion of it.
Yeah. The Facebook room, they're asking a couple questions that's already been asked. As of right now, no digital copies, but maybe in the future. Was that right?
Yeah. And again, not like I just hadn't thought of it. It's something that I'll think about now, but
Yeah.
not that I have a problem with. I just hadn't thought of it yet. So I just again, I'm trying to just get them printed. So that was my focus. Was just how do I get them printed?
Yeah. Out of the 10 places that I broadcast, 5 places had people asking for that. So about half. That's really cool. Another question from our Facebook chat room is, who are the framers in the book?
The framers.
Yeah, like
Of
where they got the Constitution frame, the framers of the Constitution.
this is I didn't. When we say historian, I'm
Oh
more like an
wait,
archiver. I'm not. I'm not a
hold on.
researcher. I've accumulated lists. So as far as like the founding fathers and who was responsible for the Second Amendment, that's beyond my pay grade. That's something else that this book encompasses. So I
Sorry,
don't know.
I don't have my
This
glasses
people
on.
have anniversaries and stuff like the people who created the NRA, but that's like the 17 whatever, and that's Burnside and people like that. It's not the founding fathers.
Yeah, I think that's what they meant. The framers of the different organizations, and they can
Oh,
find that.
sorry.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they can find that in there,
then,
right? Not of
yeah,
the Second
definitely.
Amendment.
That's one of the things that I find most interesting is I've been digging into things is like, I don't know, like we know that the NRA is the oldest organization, but did we know that Alan Gottlieb started the Citizens Committee to keep and bear arms in 1971 when he was 24 years old? He was the first organization at a national level to be created as a result of the 1968 Gun Control Act. It was a 24-year-old dude. When I was 24, I wasn't thinking about anything, certainly not our Second Amendment, and certainly not, I guess it wasn't 1968, and we didn't just have a 1968 Gun Control Act, so maybe I would have been a little bit more upset. But when I was 24, I certainly wasn't starting a lobbying organization at a national level designed to protect, fight for our Second Amendment. So, yeah, I definitely want to acknowledge the people whose shoulders we stand on. We've got the guys that's the doctors who started the Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership when they became aware that the CDC, Center for Disease Control, who is governmentally funded by the government, had been creating, I don't want to say studies because they weren't. They were creating data sets that were anti-gun. They were fabricating or misinterpreting or whatever, reinterpreting data, and they were challenged by these doctors who challenged that, and that's where they say that now they'll spin it and say that the CDC is restricted from doing gun control or gun studies. No, they're restricted from doing studies that are skewed, and these doctors stop them, and those doctors don't get credit. They never say they did it. Hardly, you have to go find that data. So yeah, that's what it's all about, is those kind of founders for sure. And then we got, of course, like Maj, we got KD, we've got Jim. Holy moly, Jim from Faster. That guy's an airline pilot. He started Faster, saves lives. He's trains. That guy, I don't know how these people do it. But yeah, once you find out that people that started some of these organizations, what an inspiration for like just personal motivation and like scheduling and ability. Holy moly, some of these people are just rocking and rolling. And then other people are just regular old people. I'm going to go to Tony Simon, regular old guy. He was a Marine, so Marines are a little bit more than regular, but regular old guy moves to New Jersey, says, whoa, this ain't right, and starts doing something. And 5 years later, he starts telling other people about what he's doing. But there's a heck of a lot of just regular people that started doing some inspirational stuff out there, and that's definitely part of the book, is to give them credit, but also to inspire, let other people know this is the kind of stuff that changes the world. Anybody can do it, and maybe it'll get you to contact somebody like KD. I'll bet you KD would sit there and talk to you for 2 hours about how to start something like that in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, if you want to listen to KD, Fireside Chats 22, I believe, was KD, Kevin Dixie. And if you want to know more about Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership and the whole CDC fight, I had Miguel Faria on, Dr. Miguel Faria, who was
like 3 episodes ago or something.
Yeah, 3 episodes ago. So yeah, so you can go.
I feel like I'm in the shadow of some really cool people.
Yeah. And then Maj, you brought up, I had him on like episode like 3 or 4.
like 20 minutes after he got done talking to Congress. I've watched all these episodes.
Yeah, well, no, that's the second time I had him.
Oh, you're talking about the first time you had him on. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, Maj is a good it's a good friend of mine. So yeah, then you have Diana Mahler, who's been on before. So I've done a lot with talking to people in the 2A community. Right now, I have on the screen the tree picture.
Right on, and it's about half done still. So there's definitely more to add to the top of that tree because we've got organizations happening all the time. It's awesome.
Yeah, I see the tree. If people want to find out like who's on the tree, do you have names by there or just their pictures or?
Okay, so that is almost like a table of contents. Now, number one, you're going to find that I'm not holding nobody's hand. There's a little bit of a challenge here. I'm not your like, hey, come to me and I'm going to take care of everything and you don't have to learn the Second Amendment because it's just in this book for you. This is to inspire people to get motivated, right? That implies you're going to go do something. So I'm hoping people that are content creators will explore and maybe focus on somebody like Dan and Mueller, 23-year veteran of the Tulsa Police Department, right? Started DC project, amazing concept out of nowhere, starts that project, brings 50 ladies from each of the 50 states to the Congress for the fourth year in a row, and they get in groups of what, 4 or 5? And if there's 4 or 5, they go to those 4 or 5 Congress people and they show them what real gun owners are with all those 50 different interests, and those 50 ladies are getting together and chatting outside of just that event. Amazing person. So yeah, if somebody's got a chance to interview her or promote with stuff like that, then or people like Diana, then heck yeah.
Yeah, Diana was on a couple different times with me. Your research.
So as far as the tree itself, the tree is sort of, and I'm just starting. This is literally my second time I'm talking about it. It's the third day or something of the campaign. And again, thanks to everyone, we're already at like over 10%. So that's pretty cool. The tree is like the first of a couple of pages. And I think for now, I'm not 100% finished with the book either. I'm like, let's say 80% finished. My goal is to have the tree be sort of like a table of contents. So this is after, I forget what page of the book it actually is. I don't think it says on the graphic there, but let's say that it's after the book is laid out where each page is a week. So there's like 50 something pages that are the weeks of the year. As soon as those end, there's a list of all the podcasts and radio shows. So a list for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, that of all the different nationally syndicated radio shows like this one and others that are on YouTube or other platforms. So that, and then the next page is this tree, and then it's something like Meet Your 2A or Know Your 2A. I don't know if I've finalized that yet, but there's going to be a section there for the podcasters like yourself. There's going to be a section there for the bloggers, because we've been talking about that off air too, or in other chats, that there's lots of media centric or medium centricity out here. If we're a YouTuber, we tend to think everything's on YouTube, but there's a heck of a thriving 2A community reading books still. And there's another heck of a lot of people reading magazines or blogs, like John when he writes on Ammoland, right? There's people on Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and all these new platforms that are maybe not even focusing on guns, but are superstars. And if we can get through to some of them and get them to include some 2A format, we're good to go. So anyway, there's a list of all the different schedules for that. And then there's, like I say, pages that are going to be the cartoons and the logos and stuff. So I haven't quite figured it out, but that tree is basically to give some chronological reference. I don't know, is that the word? Like to show in what order they happened. Because again, I think one of my frustrations that I'll have a conversation with someone who says, your community is not inclusive. And I'm like, 19 years we've had, do you have that thing still up? 19 years we've had pink pistols. Students for constitutional carry, students for concealed carry, whatever that is. 2005, liberal gun club, 2005. Tell them we're not inclusive. 15 years we've had the liberal gun club. You're just not paying attention. So if we can a conversation where someone tells us we're not inclusive, and we can explain to them that the Liberal Gun Club has been around for 14 years.
Yeah.
See if we get some feedback.
Oh.
Then hopefully those onlookers, those spectators, are going to see that you're confident in your abilities to talk, and that other person is going with platitudes and regurgitating talking points that were handed to them.
Yeah, you broke up there for a little bit, but you're coming in clear now. Yeah, your sound was cutting in and out for some reason. But it's better now.
It was an awesome rant. So just an insert awesome rant there.
Yeah, it was funny. A couple weeks ago, I was talking to Maj live, and it cut out. Like the video, like the YouTube, being able to stream to YouTube went totally down. So I can't stream anymore. And this right when he started talking about the government. So I said, all right, I'll just record it and throw it up later. So I recorded it, and then when I went to upload it, the file was corrupt. So I was like, man, maybe he's onto something.
That is weird. I remember the one that got cut off, but interesting. I didn't know it got corrupted.
Yeah, well, it got cut off, and then then we re-recorded it. Then the re-recording of it got corrupted.
That is weird. And he's running for office, so that's even more weird. I'm not doing anything of consequence over here, so it'd be, what's the point? But he's actually doing something of consequence. So that, I don't want to have a tinfoil hat, but that certainly seems odd.
I think it's just a coincidence, but it was just a really weird coincidence. And that was like and he was saying, this is the second time it happened to me today. Or something like that happened. So I'm like, wow. It's like someone doesn't like you. Yeah. Your research is impeccable on this. Just so much research. I don't even know how many hours you put into it. That's what is blowing my mind. I do a lot of research for my writing and MLN and stuff like that. And it's the amount of research you have put into this. I can't even imagine how long it's been taking you.
Yeah, well, there's no way to know because it's just something it's a labor of love for one. So there's not, it's never punching in for it, but it's literally years and years and years. Like I say, I've just been the way I work is like a lot of people, I've got notepads, I've got scratch pads. So mine just happen to be web pages. So it was just really, it's taken a year to take the information off the websites and put them into a book, but it was many, many years, of accumulating the what to list, and then something would grow. Like I can remember in my early days of YouTube, when I first figured out it doesn't pay to be 2A, I would put up just a PowerPoint. Like I would record the screen of, and sometimes it was even taking a camera pointing at my monitor before there was good screen capture software, and I would just run through a PowerPoint or a Word program, a Microsoft Word program, and just talk about the federal firearms laws so that people would understand NFA, 1934, Gun Control Act, 1968, Assault Weapons Ban, 1994. Those are the big three, right? Then you get the 1986, then you get the 1938. So there's sort of like the top level that everybody should know. Then there's the second level where we're really affected by, and those are less known. And when I started this in like the early 2000s, it was really just an effort for myself to figure them out and to kind of create some, I don't know, we haven't talked about channel theory here, but in the broad stream of things, when you're going to be around a while, you start to build things for the overall project. And I started to build things sort of like the trunks of the trees that I would be building on. So at the beginnings, it was just, let's talk about the NFA, let's talk about the 1968. And even back then, if I would have gotten 1,000 views for a video, that video would get 200 views. If I got 10,000 views a couple of years later for a video about a new Whistle That or Squizzest, right, then the video on the 1968 Gun Control Act would get like 200 views again. And it's just like people are not interested in learning history. So, it's been a long time, and trying to figure out new ways to put sugar on it. I guess that's the way. So like I say, I've attempted different ways in the past to get the information into people's hands, and I'm hoping that this is a format or a medium that'll do better than some of the others have. But I have no idea how to estimate how much time. I can tell you how long it's taken to assemble the book. Like it's been about 12 versions of the book, like 12 times I've printed it and edited it and stuff, but so I can give you some idea of how long the accumulation or the putting it together, the layout has taken, but the data behind it forever. And the thing is, there's really few places online that just accumulate data. There's some books out there, but you'd have to find like the digitized version online to technically call it online.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting. It just blows my mind, man. It blows my mind that you had an idea like this, and it blows my mind that you were pulling it off. Um, what somebody had a
Well, you're
question.
helping and you're inspiring. You're in there. Your podcast, take a
Oh, it
second to
is.
say, yeah,
Oh, wow.
you efforting like this, being the rep for GOA in Virginia. Am I breaking up again?
No, no, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been listening to James Kalita out of New Jersey, his podcast. I'm super impressed. He just gets on, gives somebody 20, 30 minutes to talk, says, thanks for joining me. Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Again, super cool format. Been kicking butt with talking to 2A people. Of course, Cheryl Todd, Gun Freedom Radio. You're right up there, dude. You're kind of new to the game or whatever, as far as I'm familiar. I'm not saying you're new to the game. I'm just saying in my whatever experience, you're newer to me. But yeah, I'm digging this podcast, and I'm trying to get that out there because I know as a YouTuber, almost everybody I talk to is YouTube centric. If it's not on YouTube, they only judge everything by its presence on YouTube. So somebody like yourself that's just kicking butt on AmmoLand and all the other things you've done, you wouldn't even be on the radar of someone who's YouTube centric. And as big as YouTube is in the United States, because there's a heck of a lot of YouTube outside the country, let's not forget. But as big as the United States is focused on YouTube, we've had historic, and we have tons of people that read books and understand the magazine writers, the significance of them and their authority on subject matter. Then, of course, the bloggers are no small feat. And then you've got radio shows and podcasters and stuff. So one of the goals of the Almanac is to help. What's the word? Like, when you put audiences, what's the term? When you have a bunch of audiences and you put them on graphically as circles, and sometimes they overlap, but and you judge things like that, like
Venn diagrams.
Thanks. Yeah, that. Like, the attempt is to create a piece of paper that can be passed around to make others who might only be focused on their circle to know what the other circles are, at least, just so they know those circles are there. It's not an ad. There's no advertising in this at all. If anything, it's focused on 2A. I probably focus on 2A more than anything else, but there's a little bit of hunting in there. There's certainly some firearms invention stuff in there. Lots of military anniversaries. I think I have every military anniversary in there. Well, not every campaign or anything, but like the things like PTSD Awareness Week. I have stuff like that in there so we don't forget. And then that's where I was going with that. But a lot of stuff in there, and my goal is to get the people who are focused on their realm of firearms media to understand that there's other stuff out there, just so that they know. And if they decide to explore it, they've got a tiny map, but 68 pages, and it's just me. It's not totally inclusive. Now, if this all works out and I'm able to do it every year, it'll get better. I'm all about improving. So this will be my first attempt, and I don't know how much further we're going to go. It's a crowdfunding campaign. It's not a money making. It's not a fundraiser. I could go to people and get it made. I have other sources of income. This is designed just to get the price of the book down, ideally. I just picked a price point. I'm going to buy this many books, and it's going to cost this much. So that's going to need this many people to back it. It's going to cost this much money to ship it to them. That's where I started. I just picked a number, and I'm hoping that we can raise enough in the crowdfunding that the price per book goes down enough that I can offer them to gun shops and gun show promoters as cheap as possible. Because really the goal here isn't to make any money. It's not to make a new book that doesn't need to exist. It's just to get 2A enthusiasm, inspiration, motivation, and awareness into people's hands. So if I can get the prices down to where a gun show promoter is going to say, that's a book that costs $7.62, and you're going to let me buy it let's say ultimately, let's say I can do what some of the other book campaigns have done. Let's say that I can tell that gun show promoter, I'll get you these books for $1, and I'll still make a profit because I'm a capitalist. But if I can get you these books for $1, can you buy 1,000 of them and hand them out to people? And if he says or she says, because there's definitely female gun show promoters, if they say, heck yeah, that sounds awesome because I'm spending that much money on photocopies of blah blah blah, then that would be the goal, right? If I can say to if someone can walk up to a gun shop and say, hey, I paid $50 for this 50 issues, you want them for free? How neat would that be? And then we've got that info just out there. That would be the ultimate goal. So that's why it's a crowdfunding campaign. It might be a little bit lofty. If nothing else, we'll get it down to a price where everybody gets their book a little bit cheaper than cover price. If you want to buy a couple and gift them, you get them definitely cheaper than cover price. So if we lose, if we don't make it, worst thing that happens is you get it at cover price. If we can get a heck of a lot of them, a lot of interest on it, and we get them sold, then maybe we can get them a little bit cheaper to people.
Yeah.
But thanks again.
Yeah, one of the things I like what you said was that you are doing it. So I just started a live chat here on my phone with a bunch of people. But one of the things what you said that you're doing is covering different media, and I really like that because like the conversation we had last night with you, me, Clover Tack, and the other people. About the differences in writing and the differences in video. That is something that I think will do everyone good that writes and everyone that does video writes, because it seems like the other side doesn't really know how the other side works. And me transitioning into video as well as still writing, it's like wearing two different hats, even though that it's basically the same thing, it's just different format. Because things just work differently.
Well, yeah, I mean, in some respects, I agree with you 100%. But then in other things, what I find fascinating is every time, and gun rights policy is pretty much the only time I've had the experience, and specifically AmCon really, is the 2A media event that happens right before the gun rights policy conference each year. Gun Rights Policy Conference is 34 years old. I mentioned Alan Gottlieb started that a long time ago in 80-something. The Gun Rights Policy Conference just completed its third year, and that's a day-long event for the Second Amendment media to get together at the same location as the Gun Rights Policy Conference, but the day before. And that's where I get the most experience with like Alan Corwin, who's a writer, or Wortman, who's a writer, I mean, not writer, but like author of books. So publishing type of author. And then of course, well, I guess you haven't been there, but other bloggers have been there. And I don't talk to bloggers very often. And because how do you talk to a blogger? You read a blogger's stuff. They're not in a live conversation like this. So I'm used to having live conversations. So anyway, when I am able to interact with these people or see what's happening with them and hear their questions, right? Hear their impressions of what we're talking about at AmCon or something. There's massive differences in the way that we think. And I think we were kind of addressing that yesterday. It might be what you're talking about. Like, if we're doing a live conversation, I know pretty much immediately what people think. Like, one, they'll just leave. Like, if we say something horrible, like red convertibles or scourge on the planet, they shouldn't exist, and the numbers go from 700 people watching to 70 people watching, you probably said something dumb, right? You kind of have instant feedback. With a video, you put something dumb out there, you pretty much know about it right away. Authors, you must have it differently. So right away, we're coming from a different, I don't know, like, we're just swimming differently. So that's what I expect. That's what I really appreciate is when we get together as 2A media. And it's something that SHOT Show doesn't give us, really, because we got a whole lot more people coming together from a whole lot more places. But SHOT Show does absolutely zero to get us to communicate or to learn each other, meet each other. They have all the potential in the world. We're there for an entire week, but they don't do anything. So at least the AmCon gets us together. But that's what I really appreciate is figuring out the nuance, the differences that we each have coming from our different areas. And again, I have to look at those audiences. So many people are under the impression you need a lot of audience in order to be successful, because in other realms, like selling yellow shoes instead of green shoes, you need a lot of audience. You need a whole bunch of people wearing yellow shoes, and everybody has to think yellow shoes are so good. We're trying to do a different goal here, right? So that's where I think it's interesting to talk to different people who have different goals that are all Second Amendment focused or firearms focused. And that's what I appreciate. So hopefully this will, it's a book. It's going to do whatever it does, but at least it's putting out there when all the podcasts happen and the radio shows happen, and who all the writers and researchers, and I'd like to put lawyers and doctors and stuff in there, but I don't know if I'll have enough room. But at least it'll give us some idea of who our playing field is, who the people who are on our side, and a bit of like a direction to contact them. But ideally, the book will also leave just enough uncovered that encourages people to go do their thing. And honestly, I never am too worried about being perfect, because if you are better than me, please do better than me. Like, please put out a better version of whatever I'm attempting, because that's how we succeed. That's evolution. That's progress, right?
Yeah. Just want to bring this up. I have an offer for you. Chris Shoemake, he's one of my listeners, good friend, part of the Crump Mafia, I guess you can say. You know, one of my Patreons and stuff like that. He is offering $100 for the first copy that's signed by both of us.
Right on. Now, I've got Patreon. I appreciate the offer very much. I've got Patreons, and I haven't decided. There's not going to be enough first issue, I don't think, because it's not like something that's numbered, right? Like, there's just going to be a box, and I'll have them. So I can definitely tell you that. Well, I don't sign stuff. It's for $100. I guess I could sign something, but whenever, if I'm able to get to Virginia, to DC in a couple of weeks here, we can, and these should be printed. We haven't even talked about that yet, I don't think, but we should have them in our hands in DC. I'll definitely be willing to sign one with John, and you can have that one. I can't in good conscience say you'll get the first one, because whatever the first one will honestly go to one of my Patreons, because that's what we're all about, right? Like, we're being supported. I'm able to do this research because of the idea of crowdfunding. A bunch of people who are capitalists decide that they have hard-earned money, and whatever effort they feel is appropriate gets a little bit of that hard-earned money, and I want to say thank you for that, right?
Yeah.
But I'll definitely give you the only one. Well, I can guarantee it'll be, unless somebody else comes up with something like this, it'll be the only one signed by me and John, because I don't sign nothing, and there will be no other one signed by both of us. So it won't be necessarily the first book, but I can guarantee you'll have a unique book, and I'll write number one on it if you want. But again, in good conscience, I have 10 drafts. I'm pretty much going to give those out, the actual drafts of the book, to Patreons, and then, the first books to exist the first books to get shipped will go to Patreons, just again to say thank you for the ability to do this kind of stuff. But everybody's got it on the same day. I mean, it's almost a technicality. It's just that I don't want to be dishonest.
Yeah, that's good. One more question about this, then I want to hit on the 2A rally before we end. Because we're already over an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long.
I chat live all the time. You can't keep me on too long, but I understand completely. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's only gonna be, you're gonna do this. You plan on doing this one time a year, right?
Yeah. So ideally, okay, that's a good question. I don't know yet when next gun rights policy conference is. Right. We know it's going to be in Orlando, but they never tell us until we didn't even know till June or something of this year, maybe even later. The things that haven't happened yet in this year, like the machine gun shoots that happen in October, and whatever else, a couple other events still happen this year. Some of them I know, like SARS show happens on the first weekend in December, so that's easy. But other shows that travel and other shows that just haven't happened yet this year are not yet talking about their 2020 because they don't want to confuse people. So that's the thing. If I can contact some of the places that are question marks right now, then I'll have one a year. If it turns out that I don't have the clout or they just don't have the dates to give me, then I would anticipate doing a mid-year one. And it would basically be like 90% the same. It's just that it would have the right dates for the end of the year. Because like right now, I don't have one in front of me, but I know TriggerCon and I know your Gunathon is in there. I know the dates for those. I know KD's event is in there, but well, for example, well, no, I have the Big Sandy machine gun shoot. There's just a couple of events that I think I have question marks in because they haven't happened yet this year, and they haven't publicized what their dates are. But aside from that, it's sort of like the Farmer's Almanac. It's just a bunch of numbers and dates and timelines. Now, each year I do plan on doing it because, of course, the schedule changes, and I hope to, keep adding to it. If I find out, for example, there's a couple of people that I just don't know their birthdays, right? So if I find out somebody's birthday, I want to be able to add that to the almanac. So next year there'll be a new updated version, and then I'm also going to take that opportunity at the bottom of the almanac, assuming there's a second year, right? I'm going to go ahead and assume that I have the museums on the left page and I have the organizations on the right page. I think it's appropriate each year to shuffle those, to add different ones. And I'm kind of rolling around in my head, I'm trying to accomplish it first. But if I had to look long term, which I will sometimes do, I think I might include gun shops because there's some really, 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 really cool gun shops that I've explored. That would be worth mentioning. I just don't know how much what I can really accomplish in a little piece on a paper, but it might be an interesting challenge. But I'm thinking about maybe swapping some of the museums out with interesting gun shops, but that might be a little bit too much like advertisement. So that's putting the cart before the horse. Let's get this year's out before I get to next year. But that's a good question. It's designed to be a 1 a year thing. If I can nail down a couple of 3 dates, I think is all it is, then it would be a 1 year thing.
And one final question about this for me is, are you going to produce more in the future if we sell out? We meaning you. If you sell out, are you going to produce more?
Yeah. Ideally, this is a quenching a thirst that no one knew they had, because I can't wait to do one for reloading and ammo. Like, my passion specifically is like AK-47s, little tiny revolvers, and ammo. Like, I can't get enough research on ammo. Most people don't want to listen to research on ammo, but if this works out, this one's, like I say, really focused on Second Amendment, because all of our interests are, hinge on the Second Amendment. So this one's 2A focused, and that is my number one focus, especially going into the election year of 2020, when the boomers are going to hand off their influence, their baton, to the Gen Ys. The Gen Ys who were born in 2000, who've never experienced a world with 9/11. They were literally born then. They're turning 18 and 20, right? They're turning of age to vote in their first national election. This was an important year to talk about 2A and our history, and why 2A is important, why gun owners aren't just obsessed with the machine or obsessed with violence or obsessed with phallic symbols or whatever they have to marginalize us with. So this Shooter's Almanac 2020, the first one, focused on 2A. But assuming it quenches a thirst that no one knew they had, I would like to do one for hunting, because there's a heck of a lot of interesting hunting stuff, and honestly, it fits into 2A, because the waves of attack against guns have not always been against personal protection. They've not always been against military rifles. They've often been against hunters. So a hunting one would just be interesting, because so many calibers were developed with hunting, so much conservation was accomplished with hunting, that, again, I'll add it to the Shooter's Almanac, but I'd like to do a specific one for hunting, a specific one for like ammo, all the inventions that have to do with reloading and cartridges and calibers. I'd like to do one with just the inventors, like I did with the playing cards. Perhaps do one with just shooting sports, and then other focuses like that, because really I had to filter. There's a lot of stuff in the almanac, but it's filtered so that it doesn't get overwhelmed with how much actual history we have. So I would definitely like to do like flavors, I guess, of it, if it catches on, and hopefully it catches on.
Yeah. Wow. I just was told hunting licenses are down this year. Wow.
Oh, really? So it might be, because it depends on who you listen to and if it's honest or not. But then you also see this meme going around that says there's more hunting licenses than, I don't know what it's at, most militaries in the world or something. So I don't know, maybe they can both exist. They can have been even higher than most militaries and still be lower. But again, it depends. If you're listening to a hunter, if it's down by 15, they're going to get upset. And if it's, 15 out of 200,000, then they're just upset because it's any loss.
Yeah.
But I'm not a hunter.
Yeah, I'm not a hunter either. Let's get into this 2A rally really quick here.
Let's do it. Yep.
There is a 2A rally on November 2nd in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol. And it's going to be, it sounds like it's going to be pretty big. I'm hoping it's going to be pretty big.
Yeah, we talked to a couple of people who are in the know, and again, it's a concept to not be branded, to not be affiliated with any political party or with any organization, national or anything else, not to be affiliated with any campaign or any position, right? Just supposed to be 2A, and that's it. So the people that are running it are hard to kind of run down, and I asked them a couple of things about it, and that's what they had mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first started looking into it, I was like, who the hell is running this?
Same where I'm like, I'm not going to do this. What is this? And then I started to find out, oh, okay, I understand. You understand now. Like, it's designed to be a generic, like just 2A, so everybody can show up. Sorry, I interrupted you, but
No.
I think it's an opportunity that we've never experienced yet.
Yeah. Well, once people, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag like you, but once people find out who it is and stuff like that, then they're going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's super obvious, but it's not like GOA. It's not Second Amendment Foundation.
It's not really
anything, really.
It's not really an organization. It's specific people.
Yeah, and but the idea is that we all get together. We have an opportunity to meet under no banner other than our Second Amendment. I've already seen just from what is it? I think what is the Instagram 2A rally?
Mm-hmm.
I think is the Instagram. They've been posting, they've encouraged people to create their own, what do you say, like plugs or announcements for it. And then they've been reposting those announcements, and just the variety of people that have, from like Ted Nugent to Kerry, like it's just the spectrum. So it's neat that it's not like just, in other words, like some of us 2A people are nerdy for 2A, and a lot of people will suggest you people want conflict because y'all profit from it. And that's an honest concern. Like, yeah, if there's a bunch of people making money from the conflict, then you have all the reason in the world to suspect they want the conflict to go on. But when it's not just 2A people, when it's hunters and when it's sportsmen and when it's others involved with firearms for reasons of personal defense or civil rights, right? Like, then it takes on broader meaning and it's more legit, and no one can pigeonhole it. Is that the word?
Yeah. People are talking about like, are we worried about like the wrong crowd showing up there? Not really.
We are the wrong crowd. We are 2A. So yeah, you can be concerned about everything, but I'm more optimistic about what's the result going to be. There's certainly, we already know, no matter who shows up, someone is going to be the low-hanging fruit. Anytime anybody gets together, there's the outlier. So yes, there's definitely going to be an outlier. There's definitely going to be somebody that's inappropriate. Yes, hopefully, I guess we were getting at is, you were saying it's going to be a sizable event. After talking to them, because I was the same as you, what's this website? There's literally nothing on this website except for the dates and times. This is like literally generic. So after we talked to some of the people that helped get it moving, I asked, what do you think the size is going to be? What did you plan for? And they're planning for 25,000. I mean, that's what, they have to pick a number for the size of people that are going to show up. They pick 25,000 or 20,000 or something. So it's a sizable, they're optimistic. They're looking for a sizable number compared to any other rally for 2A that's ever happened. So I'm really looking forward to, with 2,000 people, there's going to be a couple people that are weird. And you know what that is? It's an opportunity to go over to that weird guy or girl, because girls are weird, and say, hey, guy, you're the outlier. You know what you're doing? You're looking like the outlier over here. Look at all them other people that are here with the same goal as you. And we're not asking you to sing the same song, but, can you be in tune a little bit? Like, what we're saying? And if that person, that guy or girl who's weird, who's the outlier, if they look around and go, dang, I didn't think I was so weird. Now I understand, I'll turn my shirt inside out that, it said something weird on it. Turn it inside out and be another human being here, standing in solidarity for this concept that the Second Amendment protects. That's an opportunity. So Yeah, thanks for the question, but heck yeah, when enough of us gather, that's a person who's so dedicated they got off their butt and went to Washington D.C. to be weird and to be inappropriate. They're approachable. That's a person who you can talk to, you can learn from, and then they're going to take it. That person didn't get there on their own. There might be a couple of weird rich people, but most people that get to D.C. are going to be doing it by asking for help. I certainly ain't going to be able to get there. I make $1,000 a month. There's no way I can get there with my van that takes 13 gallons to the mile or whatever, 13 miles a gallon. No possible way I could get to there without help. So everybody that's there is going to need help. When you talk to that weird outlier person, that guy or girl that's doing something that's not right, we talk to them, we get through to them. They go back to the 20 or 200 or 2,000 weird people that they represent and go, hey, you know what? We're all thinking the same as some of these people, but we're weird. Maybe I'm optimistic, but I'm ready for the outliers.
Another question comes from the YouTube room, and is there any plans for a second rally in the future? From what I understand, it might be become an annual thing, but it just depends on how it goes.
Nope, I was actually Carrie Sloan from We the Female. We were chatting with the people that, again, kind of started the ball rolling and are now letting go of the ball because they don't want to have it associated with any individuals. They said specifically, nope, this is a single instance. If something else happens, what they're trying to do is get, tens of thousands of Second Amendment advocates, tens of thousands of people who are aware of our Second Amendment and what it protects. They want those people to get together. Now, they don't want to create another entity or another yearly event. If the people that show up,
that's what I'm talking about.
Something, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that it's certainly not an organized thing. If they create an event out of it, that happens. Nobody's going to prevent it. It's just that it's not designed to do that either.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was talking about, but they're not going to tell people that you can't.
Oh no, yeah,
organize it yourself.
I think the worst fear would be that someone picks it up and says, "This was mine, and I'm doing it again." That might be the only thing that would get them to say, "No, that's not what we're doing." But otherwise, yeah, if somebody decided, I think that's part of the goal, right? If we get tens of thousands of pen owners together and someone says, "I want to do this in Seattle, and let's challenge the garbage 1639 or whatever." Let's do this in California and get those 7 million gun owners motivated. I think that's kind of the point, right? Let's see if we can start making effective rallies.
Yeah.
I'm hogging the mic, but one of the things I think is neat about this concept, and I've learned about it at Gun Rights Policy, just like pretty much everybody else. So I have not had a lot of time to think about it. And I am unique because I do this kind of stuff for a living. I literally travel around experiencing gun industry and gun community stuff for a living, so it's certainly unique compared to most situations. But what I think is super neat about this, as someone who's been a Boy Scout and I was in Civil Air Patrol when I was a kid, in the military and stuff, so I'm totally familiar with going out with people to an adventure, like a week-long camp, going to training or something where you're gone for months or whatever. Like, I am familiar with getting out and doing stuff. I'm certainly familiar with road trips. When me and the Haas USMC got out in 2012, and him, and my Doberman got in my cop car, and we drove from Tucson to DC, meeting YouTubers and doing factory tours and stuff. Me and Haas are brothers. Like, you cannot have a road trip with someone and not get intimately familiar with them. You just have way too much time with them. It's an experience, and that's something that we lack as gun owners. Most of the time we're chatting like this. Like, John and I have chatted a bunch of times. I don't think we've ever met in real life. We live on opposite sides of a continent, yet we're able to have conversations like this. We're able to have use of it. We're effective, but what we're lacking is the human interaction, right? The human contact. And so many people don't even get to do road trips, period. Like, their family doesn't do it, or they don't have an excuse to do it. This is an opportunity, an excuse to do a road trip, to get together with your friends in the local area, maybe a state level organization, a gun club, a gun shop that you all go to. Bring it up, make up a flyer, put it out there, ask the gun shop if anybody's interested in this, tell them to contact me, because I'd like to get rent a bus or a van or something. Vans are awesome. Rent a van and go to DC with everybody who's interested. Maybe the gun shop says, "Hey, that's awesome. Let me pay for the gas." This is an opportunity here to do a lot of neat stuff. In addition, with the goal of getting to this rally, but I'm digging every part of this rally. It's an opportunity for the gun community to really come together at the individual level for a grassroots effort. And the echo of that, the repercussion of a bunch of, even if it's 500, they keep saying even if it's 500, I suspect it's going to be thousands. When thousands of people get together, the echo of that, what they've accomplished and their experience, they're going to be able to take home to the people that got them there. And again, that echo is just going to ripple, and I can't wait to experience it. Watch it if I can't get there, but then to experience what that ripple is, how much stronger we are at a time when the NRA is falling from within. Half the people that are members are willing to watch it burn. Some of those want to watch it burn. People in the middle could care less, and that's super frustrating. And then you've got a couple of people who are trying to put things together and can't. They're almost helpless. And then you've got a few unscrupulous ones actually working against us, all just under the NRA. And the result of that is the antis are going to be holding the NRA's head on a stick next year during this election, where the boomers, our parents, are going to hand it off to the Gen Ys. And we're going to have this two-way rally in the middle of it all, and hopefully, ideally, bring tens of thousands of gun owners together that nobody in their right mind can suggest that those gun owners got there the same way that whoever gets bussed in by Bloomberg crew, right? They're going to see a ragtag bunch of a weird Battlestar Galactica looking, group of people show up, and there's going to be outliers and all kinds of stuff, but we're certainly not going to be a bunch of people orderly pulling off of buses in our new T-shirts, chanting the same bullet points. This is going to be something that the political strategists will have to acknowledge, and the community itself it'll be revitalizing. Awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. I was kind of nervous when I first saw it before I found out who was behind it, because what I was worried originally was worry being set up.
Exactly. I didn't want to even get into it, but that's exactly when I first saw the thing. I'm like, what is this? It's completely anonymous. Like, I'm scared of anonymous online, usually.
Yeah, it's like, if you never know who, you show up and it's being put on by the MPI, which is like Richard Spencer's organization, then you're like, uh-oh, I just attended a Nazi rally.
It was like, there's no contact info, but register here. Like, no.
Yeah. Nice try, Mr. ETF. But yeah. But no, it's
the rally was new. I had this set up. I knew I wanted to do it. The Shooter's Almanac already, like I said, I've been working on it for years, not because it took me years, but because I wasn't ready in other years. I had the data, but then it wasn't enough, right? I knew that it wasn't enough. I knew I was missing pieces, so I waited another year to accumulate. And then once I had it, I waited way too long to try to lay it out, or whatever it's called, like, to do the formatting, and I couldn't. I was still trying to pay somebody to do it or get help to do it. So another year went by, and I'm accumulating more data. So this year I said, I just got to do this. It's got to happen, because it's 2020, right? 2020 is the perfect time to do something insightful, right? It just makes sense. So, again, the election year and everything, like, let's make use of something like this resource. So I knew I needed to get it out before January. But then this rally happened, and at first I was as skeptical as you. In fact, I have live shows of me looking at the website and going, what is this? There's not even a contact info. Like, I don't believe any of this. Because, again, I'm skeptical, right? So now that I know what the deal is, and I'm sure it'll be mentioned after, it's not a giant secret. It's just that they're trying not to taint it, right? They just want it to be two-way. So it's not a big thing. But anyway, once I understood what the deal was, and I'm completely on board with it now, I was at a dilemma. I need the e-bag to get there. I make $1,000 a month, and that $1,000 comes from Patreon. It's like, I am not rich. So, and I'm running servers and stuff with that money. I'm not like living large off my $1,000 or anything. So I do not have money to get to DC, and let alone, I don't want to put all that miles on my vehicle. I'm poor. I can't just be putting miles on my vehicle for nothing. And I don't like driving all the way. I'm way too cheap to want to drive all the way to DC and then drive all the way back quickly, right? Like, I want to spend some time and make a road trip out of it, see some gun shops or something. So for me, it was, Like, do I do the almanac or do I not do the almanac? The almanac is not a moneymaker. It's not designed to create income. It's just designed to exist. So I decided, I'm going to do both because I'm out here challenging people to throw money at me. I'm going to be e-bagging these little patches and stuff to try to get my butt from Tucson to the other side of the continent to experience this Woodstock of guns, or at least Woodstock of the Second Amendment. And, do I need to do 2 crowdfunding things at the same time? And I said, you know what, I'm going to, because now I can. My goal was to get it funded by the 23rd. It's the day that it's the anniversary of the OK Corral. It's the 138th anniversary of the OK Corral. On October 26th. It's also the 14th anniversary of the Protection of Lawful Commerce Act, and then it's the anniversary of the birth of Henry Derringer back in 1855. So I figured, okay, 26th is a cool day. I usually like to pick a day, especially for the almanac, right? I want to pick a day that has some significance to end the project. I started it on the 2nd. So I planned on just letting it run, and then, it would fund, and then the money from Indiegogo, a crowdfunding project like that, usually takes a couple of 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks to come in. So the funding from a project that ends on the 26th of October, the actual money will hit my account minus fees and stuff around mid-November. So, I planned on then sending that money to the printer at that point. Then they would take a couple of days or weeks to print, and then they would go out, November, December. But since we got the 2A rally, and this is a season or an opportunity to challenge everyone involved, I'm challenging myself. So I'm going to see how the project goes. I'm going to effort this project more than I've efforted some of the other 30 projects I've done. And if mid-project, mid-campaign, it's close to being funded, then I'm going to beg and borrow a loan for the money before it's ended, assuming it's going to end, and then get them published well before the end of the month so that I have them in hand. So if I do have the opportunity to get to DC, then I have them with me. So I figured, we're asking people to dig deep and donate money to get some of us from across the country to this thing. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and leave 2 projects up at the same time. It's ambitious, but again, this isn't a moneymaker. So the worst that happens is it doesn't get funded, and I just make fewer of them.
Yeah, well, that's really, really cool.
Right on. Well, I appreciate the almost 2 hours to blab about it. And again, this was the second opportunity I've had to even say stuff about it. I've just been in my head this whole time. So I do value the time and your time with your audience. Again, I appreciate your show more than you can know. It keeps me motivated. So people that say, how does he do all this? Because I got John Crump, I got Cheryl Todd, I've got Charlie, I got Clover on while I'm listening. I'm listening to those people while I'm efforting.
Yeah, and you can also read about the almanac on AmmoLand probably towards the middle of next week, maybe end, depending on the news cycle.
Too. This is my realm, but what you're going to be able to offer me with the AmmoLand article, I truly appreciate, because that is not something I have. It's on my forte, and I don't have the Rolodex. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Right on.
Well,
pleasure.
I am exhausted. I was up till 2 o'clock last night talking to you about stuff about like this, and then I got to get up early in the morning and go watch my kids swim practice.
Right on. Have a great weekend, and thanks everybody for tuning in on Friday, and I'll have a great weekend too.
Oh, and also it's going to be on libertyreport.co as well. I just found out.
Oh, okay. Where your platform where you allow writers to post 2A articles and stuff?
Yeah, someone's going to take it up and do it.
Right on. Thank you.
So you might hook them up with you if they have any questions.
Yeah, please. And if you know someone who's doing a show, I probably should put that in my notes to mention that. If you know someone who'd be interested in having me on, my goal is to get the word out about it this month, again, so I can get these things funded as much as possible so that we get, like anything, you print more, you pay less per issue. I'd like to get the price down for the gun shops and gun show promoters to where they can literally consider just handing it out, put their name on it. There's a place on the back, I think I mentioned, where they can stamp their store info or staple their business card, and then literally get it to a price where they can hand it out. I think that would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, let me talk to the people who I like sponsor the podcast, and I'm gonna try to get you on with those guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the leads.
No problem at all. All right, thank you guys. That's it for this week. Actually, not this week. I had 2 special episodes. Tomorrow night we are back, and we're going to be talking about classes to make take it 80% lower and go ahead and turn it into a working lower, handguns and rifles. And having a guy on that started a nonprofit to help people do that. My name is John Crump, GOA Virginia State Rep, our director, I guess, and AMLAN writer. And I am out of here. See you tomorrow.
You've been watching Fireside Chats with John Crump, a Black Swan Media Group production. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tune in every week for a conversation with the difference makers in the world.